Greg Hilburn with Gannett. So, how are you doing today, Greg? Last day of the special session. So, what's going on?
Last day of the special session, I Febrezed my clothes and re-ironed everything because I've run out. But we're going 6 o'clock. It's ending with either cuts or more taxes, one or the other. They're going to balance the budget today.
You really think so?
I do. They have to. Would it be on paper or for real? We'll see.
Yeah, we had a conversation last year. It was on paper at least. We found out later, but although there was some real questions to whether or not it would be real, and we found out it wasn't.
It wasn't anywhere close to being real, and that's the problem we're facing now. I do think that most of what we've seen so far is real. You know, if you can rely on the fiscal notes and the cuts already made, but there's still a pretty big gap today that would have to be either closed with revenue or with cuts.
Sure. Any feel in terms of how far away in terms of this particular fiscal year? I mean, I've read reports anywhere from 30 million difference to 100 million. Any idea?
Well, so yeah, I've heard anywhere from late last night.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was President Lario told me that we were, like 17 or 18 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've heard 40, 50, 60 million. Some of it depends on what they do today because there's a lot of legislation pending that will either knock a big hole in that number or close it up more. For instance, the two biggest things are the cleansing or wiping away the exemptions of the 4 existing pennies, as of course you know all this, and then the second would be the new penny, Katrina Jackson's bill, the additional penny of sales tax. So those are the two instruments that are out there now that have the most bang for your buck. Although there will be some effort to compress, which means raise the income tax rate of some more people to the top rate, which is 6%.
Right.
So that's where I think all of those are in the numbers we're looking at.
Right. And now, in terms of legislation, at least yesterday, the Senate passed legislation. The Senate committee passed legislation, I should say, relative to the cleaning of the penny. Am I correct?
That's right. The original bill by Jay Marsh was cleaning the penny. Of course, you're so plugged in, but there's about 200 exemptions on each penny of sales tax. So he cleaned off one penny, and other than the constitutionally mandated food and prescription drugs, and then it went to the Senate committee, and they marked that up to all 4 pennies, which quadruple the potential impact of that bill. Now, whether or not the Senate, I think, will keep that, but whether or not it survives in conference or not is still in question. That's one of the items they're negotiating today.
Is there enough time? Conference. We saw what happened last year. I mean, whatever just flew out of conference passed.
There's enough time to do it. There's always enough time, but whether there's enough time to do it right, now that's a different question.
Right, and that is a question, absolutely. So then the next question becomes, if it's not enough, then it falls over into next year. And I thought that the legislative session coming up is not a fiscal session, so they cannot raise any revenues. So therefore, all they can do is make cuts.
That's right, and that's the big issue. They're close to. I really do believe that they're close to solving this year's number, but next year are still far away because, as you know, there won't be a $200 million BP settlement that they can plug in, or $128 million in rainy day funds. They're prohibited from doing that in that one-time money will not be available. So there's still a huge gap in next year's budget.
So that means another special session. I mean, how else are they going to do it unless they?
That's what I think that there'll be. The governor has resisted that idea, but I mean, I think it'll throw them into another special session. Now, lawmakers, I don't know if they understand that these hard votes on taxes or the hard cuts, either one they'll catch a lot of grief about. They're gonna. I mean, I would want, if I was them, I'd want to do it one time. I wouldn't want to have to do it twice.
Right.
And that's what they'll have to do if it spills over to another special session.
Which is why I threw out that maybe Wagner's PAC's idea in terms of the 2 pennies. Not that I would want that, but it just made sense to me. Maybe 2 cents, but and that is that you can bring in $900 million that way or so twice.
You can. That has been that really blew up though over the weekend.
Right.
It got so much pushback from the Democrats that the governor had to call a press conference to say he was against it, and the Democratic House Caucus leader Gene Reynolds of Minden, he says, at least as of late last night, last time I talked to him, he said it's a non-starter. They just will not. Members will not vote on that because they consider it regressive, and
right,
and that it most impacts the poor, which I think everyone does. But those are the two that the penny that we're talking about now, and those the existing clean pennies. I know it sounds crazy, but
sure,
those are the two biggest measures left to unless they're able to convince them to compress the income tax.
Right.
That won't impact this year, but that would help next year. And I don't know if Republicans would be very resistant to that. So there's still so much up in the air as the morning hour begins.
Right, and it seems to me, and I think you agree, that we're looking at another special session because they cannot raise revenues in this upcoming fiscal session. And in my opinion, it's too much of a risk to even try to have parallel sessions going on at the same time, a fiscal and a regular session, because if it turns out to not be lawful, then, certainly it'd be challenged in court.
Absolutely. And I think that's the Senate leadership believes it's legal to have a concurrent session. The House does not. And the governor told me this week that he did not believe it's legal. So I think it will absolutely, if it comes to that, will be the following the regular session, which, of course, begins Monday.
What a mess. Thank you, Greg.